So nice job.
Now Keldon,
Keldon, did you hear that Cecilia showed up to translate the Spanish class on Wednesday?
Sorry?
Cecilia showed up tonight thinking she was translating the Spanish class on Wednesday.
Oh, yes, I missed you, Cecilia, yesterday.
Tonight she's here for that.
Exactly. You're very early for next week. Very good. So it was very nice. It was very, very good, actually, the Spanish. It's good for me. So it's good. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. I know that it's for people in Florida is a difficult time with all the floods and all of these crazy weather going on. So we decided yesterday and today to do the classes online only, just for precaution, just to make sure that people are, safe, that they don't drive, get their cars wet, or, they get stuck in ponds and all of these. I think the flood have been quite severe, especially in the south. Yesterday, one of the participants of the class said that I think she took 4.5 hours from Miami to Boca. So it's like, yeah, the situation was very bad. And then precious Margaret so kindly has been taking care of it, has been taking care that we all are doing what's the right thing. So thank you, Margaret. You're so, so kind and making sure people know. So tomorrow we are supposed to have puja at the center. But let's check as well. We are still waiting a little bit to check the weather forecast. If the weather is okay, then we can do it in person. Otherwise, we might do it online or we check. And Sunday, fingers crossed, we are all together at the center again. But I think Sunday seems that it's the only day so far. No, there's no rain. So that's good. So that's why it's good that we are. At least we are here, at least we are alive and be able to be here having the conditions. So that is also already quite amazing that we can do that. And so fortunate to be able to sit together and share and talk about Dharma, talk about, these incredible teachings of the Buddha. I just feel so blessed every day that I'm trying to prepare for these teachings, for these classes, for these talks, as I say, because it is incredible to be able to connect with these teachings and go even deeper and, having the time to reflect, to look, to contemplate. It's just so incredible because the mind really starts to become more and more going towards, a more positive way of thinking. So it's very special. It's very special that we have that opportunity. So once we decided to be here together, so let's use this time wisely. So for that, let's create a motivation. Let's always start with a motivation for our course, for our class, for whatever activity that we are doing. Actually, it doesn't need to be only when we are sitting down here on a cushion or on a chair. But everything that we do, especially when we start our day, if we can just think about what is our motivation for that day, what is the reason why we are coming out of bed and doing all the activities. Sometimes, might be hard. Some days are harder than others for us to see clear and connect with our purpose, our meaning, our motivation. But that's fine. It's not about having it right and perfect all the time right now, but just slowly creating the familiarization, the habit of thinking how fortunate we are that we are alive and we have another day to enjoy and to use in whatever way we want. Same with this talk here, this session, we could be doing something different. So we should then take advantage of this time and realize that all the happiness that we want, all of the absence of discomfort, dissatisfaction, suffering, comes from others. Is due to their kindness, their compassion, that we can enjoy all the things that we have. So how come throughout our day we only think about ourselves? We only think about me, me, me. What do I want? What do I need? So if we can't remember that, at least now we are having this possibility of changing, transforming, expanding that motivation that only thinks about me, myself, and I, to say, okay, may I also be able to help and think about others as well. Not only think about what we can do to help them on the outside and material world, but especially how we can help them to find the path within themselves so they can find lasting and peaceful happiness and the completely sensation of all their suffering and the causes of suffering. And we are very fortunate to have met with the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha, and especially the Four Noble Truths, with the Lamrim, a direct path to enlightenment, and to have connected with special teachers and beings like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Lama Yeshe, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, that embody those teachings, live those teachings, making us believe that it is possible for us as well to benefit others every moment of our lives. But for that, we need to study, contemplate, meditate. And that's what we are doing here. So we create this motivation to use this time wisely, to allow ourselves some break from our delusions, our negative tendencies, our afflictions. So we can slowly, step by step, develop a kind, compassionate heart and the right view of how things exist. And to make this motivation even stronger, we're going to do some prayers. We're going to do some prayers to start and to make our minds go even more towards that mindset Let me open here. Do you have there, Nana, or should I just open here? Ah, thank you. So we're gonna start with the what we call the four immeasurables. The qualities of the mind that allow us to go and develop what we call not only the great compassion, which is taking the responsibility of us wanting to help sentient beings be free from suffering, but we go even beyond so we can actually help sentient beings to achieve enlightenment. Nana, we can only see the Zoom. We can't see the prayer. Do you? Yeah.
Anybody knows the page for four immeasurables?
I tried 35.
Let me see.
I think it's 35. You can check. Before 30, before that, short mandala.
No.
34. I have 34.
34, yeah. I think maybe 34.
34. Yes, thank you.
Yes. So we can just start with that. We start generating then equanimity. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And now we go to page 89, maybe? Ah, yeah, maybe there, yeah. A little bit below, yes. So here we go for refuge. Then we can just, if we can, if we know, we can visualize our merit field in front of us. We can visualize our gurus in the form of Buddha Shakyamuni, all the lineage masters, Manjushri and the lineages of the lineage masters of the wisdom side, Maitreya and the lineage masters of the method side, in front all of the tantric deities, all of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. We can see them in front of us, looking at us with compassion, without any judgment. And surrounding us, we can see all sentient beings. On our right hand side, our father and all the male sentient beings. On the left hand side, our mother and all female sentient beings. And we see that we are taking refuge, and then we are all taking refuge together, all sentient beings. Taking refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, but to especially our potential to achieve enlightenment. So we're going to do 2 times in English, 1 time In Tibetan, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soki chonam la janju bardu dani kyapsu chi dagi chunye ki pe sonam ki drola penche sangye drola shu. Alrighty, very good. So we continue our incredible exploration of the book How to Practice Dharma and the teachings of the 8 worldly Dharmas. Last week we talked about a little bit about the book, a bit of the story of the book, and then also I asked about attachments, so you guys can check how attachment it is in your lives. And so did you guys have the time to maybe think about it a little bit during the week? Just think about what is in your daily life that you are attached to, what comes as attachment to you easily, effortlessly, as we say. I hope you guys had the possibility of checking this. Anyone wants to share something? Let me put you guys on a view, otherwise I keep looking at me. And I don't need, I'm not, let me check again. Yes. Oh, yes, much better. Now I can see you guys. So, but funny enough, we talked about attachment, but nobody asked what is attachment, what attachment is, right? Because attachment is actually so important we understand that. We've been saying not only in this class, but the different classes, and that is the basis of Buddhism, is to try to understand the mind. What is the mind? How the mind works? Because that is the cause of everything. Our happiness, our suffering, all of the problems come from the mind. So if we don't investigate, if we don't analyze, if we don't check what is the mind, so how can we actually, understand? It's like if we don't, it's like we go to the doctor, and then the doctor goes and sees, I don't know, just looks at you and say, oh yeah, you take this medication, and that's it. They don't even investigate it. They have no idea what it is. They have no idea what is the cause of why you're sick. What is that? What is the problem? So, that's why we need to do many tests. We need to go and take out blood. We need to have this and that. So we can understand what is the cause of the problem. And therefore, we can treat it. Because if we are sick and we have some type of, like a problem that it's like a virus, then we take antibiotics, it's not going to work. So the same we need to do with the mind. It's very funny to think about that we have evolved so much in so many aspects of the outside and material world, but the inner aspect, the inner investigation, we are still very, very far behind. Slowly we are getting there. Definitely slowly we are getting there. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, for the past 35 years, I think, or more, 32 maybe, 32 years, he has been coming together yearly with different scientists around the world, which he calls the Mind and Life Institute. And they discuss that. They discuss how the mind and how Buddhism, especially the Buddhist philosophy, can bring that awareness of the mind, and how the current neuroscience, the current physics, quantum physics, the biology, and all of these sciences can benefit, and how Buddhism can also benefit from them. So this has been for many, many years going on, and it's a very, very special talks and articles, and there's some videos, I think, even online that you can watch. So the Mind and Life Institute are very, very special for that. So we can check and help us to analyze our mind. Because, yeah, we see the outside world in a very concrete, permanent, solid, substantial way. And therefore, it's in some ways easier to be analyzed. It's very easy to touch the skin, to touch our body and to check. But the mind doesn't have. It's something completely different. It's due to our interpretation, to our perception. That is what actually changes our experiences. And we don't have any control of that. So when we're talking about mind, we are talking here about feelings, thoughts, emotions, sensations, shapes, everything that we do with our five senses, hearing, smelling, taste, touch. What else I'm missing? Eye, sight. The five senses. But also we have a sixth consciousness. So we also say that we have a sixth senses, which is the sixth sense is the mind consciousness, the mind. That is very important. So that is important for us to understand, that how it works, and understand that it is due to our perception, the way we see things, not see with our eyes, but the way we perceive, the way we actually understand with our mind our experience. Because if you think about it, all of you here are looking at me through this screen, and all of you have different experiences. Some of you are bored, some of you are hating, some of you are like happy, some of you are sleepy, Some of you don't want to listen to my blah, blah, blah. I understand. But all of it is different. From my side, from the side of the object that you are hearing, there's not much I can do to actually control your experience. It comes from you. So each of you are having a totally different experience. And we have no idea how this experience works. We have not even us, like I, from the side of the object, don't have control, but normally us, we also don't have control. Whatever we perceive, we believe, we grasp as existing from its own side, from the side of the object. And because we believe like this, our minds create a differential, a positive, a duality between myself and the other thing. And because of that, everything comes, all the problems. We start to get attached for things that we perceive, that we like, and we get avert. We get kind of like aversion, anger, and distance from the things that we don't want. So that is why understanding the root of the creation of our problems is so important. And that's what Rinpoche is going to talk about during the entire book. It's just so special because Rinpoche, it is so, how can I say, not only wise, but he's going to say the same thing with so many different points so we can try to understand it. And that is very important because that's what we are trying to achieve. We are trying to use our mind and our possibility of investigating to see things in different ways so that slowly we can cut down, we can break that sense of concreteness, that sense of permanence, that sense of purity that there is. in the way we perceive things. So that is exactly what we want. And if we think about it, all of these emotions, all of these feelings, all of these experiences that happen in our mind, they are not one with the mind, right? They are like clouds in the sky, waves at the ocean. But we can feel that there is a basis, that there is a certain quality of the mind that is always there. A type of clarity, a type of spaciousness that is always there. The problem is that we don't connect with this. We don't check. We don't identify ourselves, but I wouldn't say identify, but we don't perceive or we don't connect with this part. We connect with all of the the different kind of like experiences, the different clouds, the different problems, and makes our mind so small. And because we don't understand that, we create all our suffering. And because we don't understand how our mind work, we create all of these disturbances, all of these afflictions, as we call. So that's why it is so important when we talk about attachment to understand what attachment is, so we can start to recognize that. So the definition according to attachment, according to what is attachment, attachment is what we call a mental factor. So our mind has different levels or different kind of like types of mind. We have our main mind that is always present, and we have mental factors like helpers of our experience. Let's say like this. The problem is that we identify with these mental factors. And if these mental factors, if they are positive, then they bring pleasure and happiness. But if they are negative, they bring us suffering and negative experiences. And they are called, attachment is called a mental affliction. It's called a negative emotion. It's called, how do you say, a delusion. Because first, it disturbs the peace of mind. Every time attachment is present, every time our negative emotions are present, our minds are disturbed. They are not peaceful, they are not relaxed, they are not in no way clear, peaceful, relaxed, vast. It's very easy to see that. Very easy to see that. You know, on our daily lives, we can see when the moment we get either attached to something, like for example, if we are hungry and we go, I think it was Jackie that said that the other day to me, and I always remember that about how if you go to supermarket, try to eat before you go. Because attachment comes out, and then when you go, you can see the anxiety. It's like the heart is beating differently, you are sometimes sweating, you are, you know, that, and you think that this is good. We think that this is nice. You know, when you say, oh, I'm going to go and have my favorite ice cream or my favorite food, my favorite that, and we think that this is good. But the experience we are having in our minds, inside of ourselves, is like, you know? We are not calm, we are not relaxed, we are completely disturbed. And that is what we call happiness. My God, how sick our minds are. We are so, that is one of the things that sometimes I think about is like, we really don't give ourselves credit for the potential and the incredible aspects we have within ourselves, the incredible possibilities of really experiencing happiness. We think that these disturbances are happiness. And then we go and we eat the ice cream, the whatever we want, sushi, pizza, whatever. And then we get satisfied, right? And then if we eat too much, then we suffer immediately, very easy. If we don't eat too much, a few hours later, we are hungry again, so we are suffering again. And that is what we call happiness. So funny if you think about it. But that's what we are chasing all the time in our lives. So that's why it's important for us to understand, because attachment as a mental factor, as I was saying, it is something that kind of like comes and disturbs this peaceful main mind, clear mind that we have. Our minds don't become clear. And why it doesn't become clear? Because it exaggerates the good qualities. It completely, there's some words that I love that Rinpoche used to use. It it decorates the object. I like this word, decorates the object, right? So it puts kind of like layers of goodness, of deliciousness, of whatever you want to see in there, that they are not there. Completely projection of our mind, projected into the object. So it's either exaggerating the qualities of the object or projecting things that are not even there. So it makes the object appear completely out of reality, but completely juicy for what we want, for what we like, and therefore we cling to it. And then we see and we believe that those qualities are coming from the aspect, from the side of the object. And we think that they are not only like coming from the side of the object, but they are permanent, that they are pure, they're existing from itself. So we do that with all of the objects in our lives. And objects not only outside of objects, also mental objects, ideas about ourselves, self-images of perfection. Remember, we talked about perfection. All of these mental creations that we also create, we also embellish, we also kind of like put covers. I really like the idea of we putting how you say that, Rinpoche? I said that Rinpoche likes the word that we are decorating the object, and we are decorating the way that we want, the way we like. Because the same example that I said about you guys seeing me here, and each of you having a unique experience of that, all of the objects are the same. But we meet someone and then we are getting like, fall in love, and we see that person and say, this person is beautiful. And now we go and we want to introduce to all our friends, to all our family. And then our friends come to us and say, oh my God, she or he is very ugly. How can you be in love with this person? But that's why we say love is blind or something like that, We say that because it totally changes. But we not only do this with love and with things, but we do this even with ourselves. And that is one of the most difficult parts, because we start to put these layers on top of ourselves and we start to forget who we actually are. And we start to create an idea, a perfection ideal of who we should be. And we chase that because we think that this is what is going to bring us happiness. So it's good that we say also that it kind of like this is we say that the object, when we describe actually attachment, we say that it exaggerates the good qualities of a polluted object. Why we say polluted? Because it's coming from ignorance, because it comes from a wrong view. So because we see it in a wrong view, then we put it qualities, then attachment arises. So we have a wrong view, thinking that things exist without our perception, without our labeling, without we participating whatsoever in the experience with that object. We see the object concrete, pure, coming, existing from its own side, totally independent. We see that, and because we see that completely wrong, not the way it exists, then we put it, we have a good experience, so we cling to it, to existing like this. So we put qualities, then attachment arises. Attachment clings to this. Attachment believes in this. So that is very important that we understand. And this is in some ways what we do with all of the different mental poisons, as we say. Normally in the teachings, we say we have three main mental poisons. Main delusions, main afflictions, main negative emotions. The first, the root of all of it is the ignorant mind, the mind that sees the object existing from the on-side, that sees the object independent of our experiences, of our perception, of our labeling, right? So all of these comes from ignorance, from this wrong view that it's so ingrained in our minds that we can't see and we can't perceive things in a different way. So this is ignorance. Because of this ignorance, then the two other main afflictions come: attachment and aversion or anger. And we live our lives like this, completely projecting good qualities and getting attached, projecting bad qualities and getting averted. And we walk our lives and we live our lives in this push and pull. We push what we want and we pull what we don't. And we do that all the time. And we live like this. So that's why it's so important that we start to understand attachment so we can start recognizing attachment. And we don't get cheated. We don't get kind of like fooled by attachment. Because we believe when attachment arises, oh wow, I'm happy because I have what I want, right? And then we believe, we misconceive happiness for that. And we chase, not only in this life, everything that we do, we are chasing this fake, mistaken type of happiness. So, because when we encounter the object of attachment, our minds are not serene and not calm. Actually makes us go like this, in these mood swings, unstable. Can you recognize that? Do you understand what I'm talking? Yeah? Everybody's, are we communicating? Good. Because then I cannot see you guys so much, like when we are in class we can see more, so that's good. Okay, Deepa say yes. Okay, good. Because we need to, by understanding, defining attachment, identifying attachment, then we can start not only looking for the ways to decrease the attachment, but how to transform it, how to then not feel it anymore, And for that, we need to see a little bit more further. And that's what we're going to talk about quite a lot. Because, you know, if we don't understand that attachment comes from the wrong view, how can I put it? These delusions like attachment, aversion, these negative emotions, there's two ways that we can actually get rid of them, or we can decrease them. And one of them, to make them weaker, is that we use antidotes, as we call. Antidotes means that we're going to use the exactly opposite mind, or a mind that is based in positive and virtue, a mind that is based in reality, let's say like that, to counteract that mind that is negative. So, you know, when we are attached, depending on the object, we can meditate on impermanence. Because if we are clinging to the permanence of the object, we can meditate on impermanence. If we are attached because we are seeing, let's say, qualities like beauty and attraction and all of that, we can meditate on the ugliness of the body, for example. Seeing that the body, the way we are projecting the beauty of the body, is not as beauty as it is, and it's coming from our perception. Or when we get angry, we can meditate on patience, we can meditate on compassion, right? But these are going to just make these negative mindsets to decrease, but not to be eliminated. What eliminates the cause, the ignorance, the clinging, the wrong view, is the mind that sees things as they are, or what we call emptiness, what we call the right view. So these antidotes, compassion, love, kindness, patience, impermanence, they are methods that we use. And these, the right view of emptiness, it is what we call wisdom. So we need these two things to be able to purify our minds, to be able to completely clear our mind from these negative mindsets that we have right now. So this is very important, because this is the basis of Buddhism. So it is something that it can only bring, suffering if we don't understand these two minds. But these two aspects of method and wisdom, and understanding that these two aspects, walking side by side, can clear, can purify, can completely eliminate our mind from the delusions, from the suffering, and therefore can make us achieve what we call enlightenment, which is the freedom from suffering and the development of our qualities, the develop of our omniscience, the develop of an all-pervasive mind that can help sentient beings in the best way. Alex, you put it something over there in the chat. I cannot read. Do you want to tell me what did you write?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just thinking about what you are saying, that there is attachment everywhere. For example, to goals in life, or to attachment to current, previous, or future conditions in life.
Yes. Yes, there is attachment everywhere. And we do have attachment to past, present, and future. you know, because attachment is our status quo. That's what you say? Yeah. Status quo means the where we are at right now. We don't know a different way of living. We don't understand. We don't even conceptualize that there is a way of living without attachment. So attachment, yes, we do have attachment for things from the past, for habitual tendencies, and we can even have attachment to what we call virtuous things. It's different. We need to be careful here with like saying attachment to virtuous things, because actually you cannot be attached to wanting to achieve enlightenment, for example. This is an aspiration. Why? Because the object is not a polluted object. The wish to achieve enlightenment, the bodhicitta motivation, enlightenment by itself, and the path, they are not polluted. And when I say polluted, means that they are not inherent, they are not coming from a mind that sees inherent existence. They are free from that. But we can get attached to, oh, my practice, my Dharma, my teacher, my this, my that. These we can get attached. You understand? So attachment is very sneaky, very smart. You need to be very careful because it goes very subtle, like, kind of like going around, and then we think like, no, I don't get attached, it's pure motivation, and then it's there. Wow. So we need to be careful, because attachment, it's always wanting something from itself, wanting to grab something for it. And that's why we need to understand that in this case, if we understand that idea, we are the owners of our own suffering, the creators of our own suffering. Because we grasp to these false appearances, we hold to these false appearances, we hold to these mental states. So that's why we need to check, what are we attached to? And if we're gonna check, yes, we are attached to everything. But that is exactly the point of our book. The Buddhist teachings are gonna say that we are actually attached to 4 things and avert to 4 things, or we are attached to 8 things, and I'm gonna explain. And these are called the 8 worldly dharmas. So before I start the 8 worldly dharmas, Maria, do you want to ask me your question? Yes, please. Nana, can you read it, please? Her question at the chat.
Yeah, sure. Maria, you want to read it, or
No.
shall I do that?
Come on, Maria.
You're muted.
You can hear her. Nana, maybe Nana, you just read it. Maria, she's gonna read for you.
All right. Okay. She said, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
Okay. No. Go. You just read it for me, please.
So our thoughts defines who we are.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Our thoughts defines who we are. That's her question.
So the problem are not the thoughts, because one of the qualities of the mind is to have thoughts, the same way that there is a quality of our hearts to pump blood. It's a quality of the mind to have thoughts. A human mind, right? Is like, even though nowadays they are also studying and they are saying that, yeah, you know, also dogs have thoughts, but different thoughts, different ways of thoughts, right? The problem is not the thoughts. So it's not the thoughts that we have that is who we are. It's believing in the thoughts that is defines who we are. It's not understanding that the thoughts are being created by a wrong view. And not only they are created by a wrong view, but there is something that is, we are clinging and being created, we are clinging and we are believing them as real. And we are not realizing that they are coming from our wrong view of the way we see things. So then we don't see that thoughts arise because they come from this, you know, wrong view. And because they come from a wrong view, the motivation, the underlying motivation that comes, it is a selfish motivation, right? Why it is a selfish motivation? How self-cherishing arises. Self-cherishing or selfishness arises because of self-cherishing, of self-grasping. What is self-grasping? Self-grasping comes from seeing that the body and the mind, we see it in a wrong way. We see that the body and the mind is what we call the I, doesn't exist inherently. It doesn't exist from its own side. It doesn't exist. If we try to look for this I, for this me in our body, if we chop our bodies in every single small little pieces and we try even in the atom and we try to look for the I, for the me, we cannot find. If we try to look in our minds, all the feelings, emotions, thoughts, experiences, and we try to pinpoint and say, this is the I, we cannot find. So because we have this wrong view, we create this idea of independency and me. So because we create this me and this other, we grasp to this me and we want to protect and we want to fear, we want to take care and we want to do all of this. So this is the self-grasping. And because of this wrong view, self-grasping exists and everything that we do is to cherish that wrong view. So the thoughts, whatever they are coming from this basic wrong understanding, this wrong view, with this motivation of wanting to protect me, or to cherish me, I. So whatever arises in a negative way, arises in a selfish way. So the problem is that then what we do is that we believe in those thoughts. And we believe in those thoughts, even though we have 2,000, more than, 10,000 thoughts a day. Some of them we grasp and we make them concrete by acting upon them, by reacting to them. You understand? And this creates who we are. Because then I believe that I should be like this and should be like that. I should be the holy monk, you know? Oh, look at me, how incredible and precious and pure I am. So then I do everything like from this holy thought. So I speak very kind and very like this. And I walk like I am, you know, da, da, da. You understand? Totally crazy. So then I become like that. Then we are our thoughts in this way. You understand? Because everything that we do with our body, with our speech, comes from the mind. But because we don't understand how the mind works, we don't understand that the thoughts comes from the motivation. And we don't understand that the motivation comes from the wrong view. So that's why it's so important that we check our motivation to see if it is coming from a wrong view or not. Because the motivation will change the entire chain of events. Make sense? You understand, Maria, what I'm saying? Yeah? So that is very important. That is so important. Wow, it's a beautiful, now it's a little bit sunny here. Very nice. It's a bit of sun coming out. So this is so important. So that's why I'm saying that if we don't understand these concepts, we are slave of our minds and slave of our thoughts, and then we are slave of all of these objects that we are attached to. And that's why, if we think about it, that's what the Buddhist teachings is saying, is that yes, there is attachment, and we have attachment to everything, but there are 8 categories of objects or of things, and objects, and I mean here not only physical objects, that are our main attachments that we all share and we all are enslaved, and it's always in our mind. It's like it's a roadmap of our attachment. That's what the 8 worldly dharmas are. Due to the compassion of the Buddhas, the compassion of our teachers, we are able to receive a roadmap to check our minds and say, oh, wow, that's how we work. But then we need to investigate, right? It's like reading a recipe, and then we don't buy anything, then we don't cut the veggies, we don't put them into make. So then there's no cake or no food that comes, right? So it's the same thing. This is just a kind of like a list to help us, guide us, showing us the way of what are and how to recognize, so we can transform and go beyond these attachments. So they are called the 8 worldly dharmas. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about the word dharmas, because dharma here doesn't mean what we call, when we go for refuge, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. This dharma that we are going for refuge, we have 2 types of refuge. No, we have a relative refuge, which are the teachings of the Buddha, all of the different sutras. When you go to, I think that Jackie also told me that in the center used to have they are called in Tibetan pechas, which are the books, with the writings and all of the Tengyur and Kangyur. And the Tengyur and the Kangyur, they are the sutras and the commentaries on the sutras. So the sutras are the teachings of the Buddha. And the sutras, they were not like written by the Buddha. But it's a very beautiful story that actually the sutras, they came about as written because they met all after the Buddha passed away. They had this meeting with all of the bodhisattvas, and all of them had to agree in what they heard. So they had to agree in each word, and then they wrote them. Then it became the teachings of the Buddha. So this is the Dharma, The Dharma are the teachings of the Buddha, the scriptures, all of these incredible commentaries that we have received from, passing through 2,600 years. Very special. This is the relative Dharma, but the absolutely Dharma, wow. The absolutely Dharma is the change of our mind. The absolutely Dharma is the knowledge of understanding and transforming and cutting the ignorance. That is what the Dharma actually means. The Dharma means the potential, or Dharma means the mind that is completely free from the delusions, that is completely free from ignorance. That is what the Dharma, the absolutely Dharma. But Dharma in Tibetan also, it's called Chö, and Chö is the word that means also phenomena. So phenomena is an entity, or is a phenomena. I think that's the word we use in English. And in this case, we say worldly phenomena, the 8 worldly phenomena that we are attached to. That is why it is the idea. So Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to do something that I used to so precious. He was always saying like this, the difference between worldly dharmas and holy dharmas. That is the difference. One thing is just worldly phenomena, worldly objects that we are attached to, that we are completely bringing suffering for ourselves and others. And worldly dharma is going against this, is transforming, is letting go, is decreasing, is cutting the delusions. Very, very different. And that's why I like, there's a very special teacher. I'm a little bit what we call, I'm a little myself for my practice. I'm a little bit Rime. Rime means non-sectarian, I'm a Tibetan Buddhist monk. I am a Gelugpa student, but I also study quite a lot of the different schools. And one of my favorite Nyingma teachers is Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. He was considered, even from the Dalai Lama took a lot of teachings from him, because he was especially in relation to what we call the Dzogchen, which is a very high advanced view of the reality that is taught in the Nyingma tradition. But also he was very, very, very special in the teachings of bodhicitta. And of course, he has a reincarnation. He passed away as well in the 80s. In the end of the 80s, and then he has a reincarnation, the Yangtze, so the Tulku, and he was giving a teaching, I don't remember when it was, 2-3 years ago, in Singapore, I think it was, or Malaysia. And the Eastern way of practicing Dharma is a little bit more like we practice Christianity here. We go to the church, we do things, but we don't actually understand or study so much the philosophy. So the Eastern people, especially over there, they go, they make offerings, but they don't understand so much the teachings. And he was saying, I think that we need to talk about this, because people keep saying about, a good student and a bad student. There's no such thing as good practitioner and bad practitioner. Because you either are practicing Dharma or you are not practicing Dharma. There is no practicing bad Dharma or badly practicing Dharma. There is no such thing. The mind, it's either practicing holy Dharma or practicing worldly Dharma. So there's no such thing as a bad student, a bad practitioner, a bad, Buddhist. It's either you are or you are not, because the mind cannot have two objects. We cannot be dividing our time, our minding. Yes, I want to be free from suffering, but I also want to be attached to this. No, it's either you want or you don't want. Even if it goes very quickly in the mind, very fast, but there is no such thing as having both of them together. So this is to explain a little bit this. It's either worldly Dharma or either holy Dharma. And then what we call the 8 worldly Dharmas as the definition is actually, I think it's Nagarjuna letter to a friend. I think he has the Rinpoche talks about that says when they are talking about letter to a friend. Nagarjuna describes the 8 word letter to a friend is a beautiful text. If you ever have an opportunity to study, it's very beautiful. And so he says the 8 worldly Dharmas are craving for material possessions, craving to be free from a lack of material possessions, or aversion to not having material possessions, right? And then we say craving for pleasures or happiness and comfort. This is the third one. And then craving to be free from unhappiness and discomfort. Then we have craving for a good reputation. That is so 21st century. especially the Instagram world. Craving to be free from a bad reputation. So also, we do that so much. And then we crave for praise. Wow, 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 wow. The good girl and the good boy syndrome, as I call. And craving to be free from criticism. So these are the 8 worldly dharmas. And if we really start to investigate those, and we investigate our mind, and we especially check our motivation for what and why we are doing something, if we do that, we're going to find in one way or another one of these 8 worldly dharmas. Everything. Even if it is a little bit. Even if it is a weak 8 worldly dharmas, but it's there. It's there. So this is like, as I say, a roadmap is or a cold bucket, a bucket of cold water into our pride, into our, incredibly self-consciousness and independence. And there's a word that I've been using so much recently. What is the entitlement? Our self-entitlement. Because when we start to observe how we are completely under the control of these minds, there is no such thing as freedom. There's no such thing as independence. There's no such thing as actually being even happy. So the thing that we need to be very careful when we are talking about the 8 worldly dharma. So far, are we okay? Yes, everybody there? Yeah? Are we communicating? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So what we need to be careful when we talk about this, and this has happened so many times, I feel I've seen, in these years of trying to learn something about Dharma, is that when people start to hear about attachment, about the 8 worldly dharmas, is that we immediately think that the fault or the wrong, it's outside, it's in the object. So for example, then being rich or wealth or, or status, all of this is bad. If one of the 8 worldly dharmas is craving for material possessions, then having an iPhone, having a big car, having a big house, it's bad. Nothing of this. That's definitely not what we are talking about here. We are not talking about this. There's nothing wrong with the objects in and by itself. The wrong, it's in the mind that perceives them as inherently existing as the source of our happiness and craves to it. Is the craving, is the attachment to them that is the problem. Because if we are attached, if we are craving to them, we are suffering. And if we are suffering, we are creating not only negativity mind for us in this life, but in future lives, but we are creating suffering for others as well. Because that means that if we are thinking only about something for us, as I said, if there is only thinking about me, there's no space to be thinking about others. Because the mind cannot be thinking about me and others at the same time. Right? So that is very important. Very important. That is the attachment to them that is the problem. Because then we start to understand that what we actually need to renounce. what we need to renounce, what renunciation actually means. Because if we understand that is our mind that is creating the problem, if we have the object or if we don't have the object, it would not create satisfaction or dissatisfaction for us. Because what creates the dissatisfaction is the attachment, the craving of our mind. And the problem is that because the object, as we have been seeing and we saw it, and as we know, is impermanent, is instead of being permanent and concrete as we've been seeing, the objects, they are impermanent, they are ever changing, they are causal, so that means that they exist because of cause and conditions. Therefore, the objects, and here I'm not talking about only physical objects, I'm talking about emotions, feelings, thoughts, ideas, viewpoints that we cling to. They change, they pass. And because they pass, they change, we are always dissatisfied. Because the way we see them and the way they exist is not matching reality. So this mind of dissatisfaction, it's always there when we are craving, when we are attached. And then we just want something new and something else because we still believe that it is coming from the side of the object. And that's why this world is this mess. Because we are trying to create ways to fulfill that mind of dissatisfaction with outside things. We try to look for outside ways to fulfill an inner wish. So it's never going to work. It's like drinking salty water. It's never going to make us not thirsty. We're going to continue thirsty for the rest of our lives. And we're going to get dehydrated, even worse. Are we communicating there? Yeah? Or you all fell asleep? No, not yet? Okay. Because, I don't know, when I always think about these and I always, explore these in depth and I analyze these, wow, it's a bit scary. It's a bit scary how our minds are, and how much effort, energy, time, intelligence, money we put into grasping, into fulfilling these desires, to fulfilling these minds of attachment, to fulfilling this dissatisfied mind that can never be satisfied in this way that we are looking for. Because, in this life, we can see that because that's what we are doing, and quite the opposite, actually. In our society, when we have material possessions, when we have a good reputation, when we have received praise, we are seen as successful, as we achieved what we wanted, And I can say from experience that this is not true. As some of you know, I used to work in finance, in a bank, investment banking. I used to study to make some money, and I used to really especially see the people that were working with me, all the partners, the really rich people. And you could see how unhappy and dissatisfied they were. And they could have whatever they wanted. They could eat whatever they want, they could be wherever they want, they could travel wherever they want, they could buy whatever they want, they could live wherever they want, and they were still dissatisfied. And sometimes even more. Because they started to realize that it's not bringing that. But of course, we understand here, but here we continue looking for ways, looking for more and more ways. And even, you can see people like, how they say, like famous people that ended up going into drugs, going into alcohol problems, going into so many problems. And up into that, they kill themselves sometimes, right? I think recently it was the son of one, I can't remember if it was someone from Apple or Amazon or someone from these big, like a young guy, 20 something years old. Can you imagine, son of one of these rich people? He had everything. And he died because of overdose of drugs. First there he was taking pills for, for kind of like anxiety and all of that. And then he used some of the drugs and these combinations. So that's how dangerous this mind is. How dangerous following this mind is. How dangerous the dissatisfied mind can be if we don't pay attention. So that's why it's vital that we understand the 8 worldly dharmas. That what causes us dissatisfaction? What is the source of all our problems? Because on a day-to-day life, we forget, we get out, we forget of this space that we can go and analyze things as they are. And we make our minds so tight and small, and we just go, looking and living life, just one small thing after the other. And we make our minds so small. So that is why we need to really pay attention to this. Because the more we understand our problems and the root of the problems, then we can do something about it. Right? If we don't get the diagnosis of our problem, we cannot look for the medicine and the better treatment. Deepa, you wrote something over there. Do you want to tell me? What did you write?
Is depression and suffering from depression and anxiety, is that a form of self-grasping or maybe aversion?
So yes, very good question. So depression, it's like, let's say, different layers. We can analyze different layers, but one of the biggest, the most, let's say, the upper layer that we can see, it's actually normally anger. If we're gonna divide into the 3 main poisons. First, it comes from anger, because it's a aversion to ourselves. It's an aversion as well to not having what we want. We get angry because anger, the connection between anger and attachment is anger. It's when attachment doesn't get what it wants. That's what anger is. That's what aversion is. Aversion and anger is like, I love this definition, because it's like anger is when we have what we don't want, a situation that we don't want to be, and we get angry, we get aversion, we have aversion to it, or we don't have what we want. So we get angry because we don't have what we want, and we get aversion to not having, to that uncomfortable feeling of not having what we want. So it's anger. It's a, because sadness is a type of anger, is a type of not having what we want, so we get sad. And then we go a bit more exaggerated in this sadness because we have very strong sense of what is wrong and what is right, what we should have, what we shouldn't have, how we should be and how we shouldn't be. And we cannot achieve those goals. We cannot achieve to be who we are developing in our minds, how we should be. So we don't get what we want. So we get sad and then we get depressed. But of course, if we think about it, depression and this mind, it's a very selfish mind. It's a mind that only thinks about me, my happiness, what I want. So it comes from ignorance. That is the basis, right? That's where it comes from. So it comes from a wrong view. It comes from this wrong view of how we see ourselves. But normally it comes from this mind. The anxiety comes from our expectations, our ideas, our visions, our projections of how we should be, who we are, who we should be, and who we are here. And this gap creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of sadness, a lot of frustration, which are just ripples or subdivisions of anger, of aversion. So it's a mix of the attachment we have from a wrong view of how we should be and not fulfilling that. Then depression comes. Make sense? It answers your question, Deepa?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So that's why we actually, one of the things that we counterbalance our anxiety and depression, one of them, and a big one, it's compassion, thinking about others. To cut that main mind that is so directed towards me, myself, and I, my happiness. So this is the first one. And then the second is understanding our projection, how our minds are projecting an image of ourselves, an idea of ourselves, a completely deluded and wrong projection of who we should be. So these minds will start breaking that mindset, start releasing, that tightness and that selfishness. Then we can start slowly. And then, for compassion, one of the most beautiful, I don't know if we came along with Tonglen, if you know what is Tonglen, taking and giving. It's a very beautiful meditation. We're going to do this meditation on Mondays and Wednesdays, a little bit more, and in a few weeks we're going to do them. It's a beautiful meditation of developing compassion towards others, opening our hearts. So it's a very special, very, very special. Okay, I think that's enough for today. Now we are almost time to do prayers. And also, you guys are tired. And then, yes, it's good to do it online, but I prefer to do it in person as well. We can do it next week in person. And then the following week, we're going to have to do online because I'll be in Brazil for my brother's wedding. But it's just a week. It's going to be very fast. It's going to be very fast. It's going to be like here, the weather, it's just going to be like if it was raining, But instead of seeing these beautiful Buddhas and things here behind me, you're gonna see palm trees and the beach. Not like that, not like that. Okay, any other questions or anything someone wants to ask anything?
Venerable Calden?
Yes.
Hey, it's Vicky.
Hi, Vicky.
It seems, I don't know, to me, it seems like it's better to be a happy, rich Buddhist than a happy, poor one. And especially if one wants to go here and there, attending all kinds of teachings and so on and so forth, it becomes very costly. And these days, especially if you want to be a California Buddhist, you need you need a lot of money.
Yes, yes. I am, you know, I understand what you mean. And I think that there's two aspects here that are very important to always take into consideration. And one of them is the motivation, right? And the motivation for having money, it depends on what we're gonna achieve with that money, right? I remember when I was at work, I didn't want, to buy a big car, to buy a house, to buy any of these. I just wanted to save so I could travel and I could have an orphanage in Africa. That's what I wanted money for. So, so then you can see that the motivation for doing whatever we are doing, yes, is different. So the mind changes. The most important thing that we need to do is to check that whatever we are doing is not harming others. So we don't kind of like develop, some type of activity that, even though the motivation, it seems good because we want to be able to use to see the Dharma, to connect, to receive teachings, to do retreat, which in and by itself, they are motivations that definitely will create causes for future happiness, but not only future happiness, but maybe even enlightenment. So definitely they are valid causes, but we need to check the method that we're wanting to do that, So we're not kind of like, I don't know, selling like guns or killing animals or, something that is destroying the planet. That is why it's very hard, very, very hard, that we need to be careful the way we're doing. But I agree with you. Yes, yes. In some ways, we sometimes, if we see that this is going to bring more benefit, then, and this is how we do it with everything, if we want to build a big house or if we want to have a big car, we're gonna work and we're gonna create the causes and conditions for us to have that, right? And it's the same in the spiritual path. So if we're gonna use the money and all of that to help us, great. But it's not the money, because the money in and by itself is not good or bad, right? It's what we use that for, and how we make the conditions for the money to arise in our lives. That is important. So that is very important, very, very important. I know some people, and I know some teachers that, especially Robina, she used to say to one friend, she used to say, you go and become a very rich person, and and you give all the money to the Dharma, and it's true. There's a benefit for that. Benefit from this person and benefit for the Dharma for that. And let's face it, in the previous, reincarnations, and when Dharma started in Tibet and then started to evolve, they were together, We had what we call the Dharma kings, Trinzong Denzen, and different Dharma kings. They were together. So politics and, and the way of like leading a country can be done with Dharma. So not only for making money, but can you imagine, It's very funny. I said that to someone, I think on Sunday, when we were talking about practicing generosity, and then the person was saying, oh, because I don't want to give money because maybe that person is going to use drugs and all of that. And then I said, well, I understand that, but if you want to resolve the problems of this person, if he's going to be using drugs, or the person who is on the street, you do something about it. And let's face it, we live in a world that if we create our causes and conditions, we can do something about it. We can either, start a program, we can start an NGO, a nonprofit, we can become someone in the politics, we can become, the mayor, we can become like a senate, we can become the president, and then we can make these things. I would love to see Dharma people go into politics, and creating and doing their job, whatever they are doing, from that motivation. That would be so special. So we also need Dharma people, that are rich, people that are in the business, in the finance, in every types of ways. Because it's not about what we are doing. Remember, it's not about the object, but it's the motivation. That is the most important. That is the most important. Okay, Vicky? Good. Okay, so we're gonna dedicate now. So we're gonna dedicate for our time here spent together. We just, for a single moment, for a short moment, we just try to check the state of our mind right now. See if we are feeling a little bit kinder, calmer, a bit more wise maybe, after listening to these considerations, after discussing together. And we can maybe see that something has changed and has improved in our well-being, our state of mind. And then from that positivity, that positive mind state, we dedicate that these might create the necessary conditions for us to continue studying, contemplating, meditating, that we continue developing our heart, increasing our wisdom, that we are able to then put into practice on our daily lives and use the antidotes, and if we can use the right view of emptiness, that we are able to cut the suffering and the causes of suffering, those delusions and the causes of delusions. And like that, we are able to not only be free from suffering and not create any more suffering for ourselves, but we are able, through our own compassion, development of our own compassion, loving kindness, we are able to help others to achieve the same state. So we dedicate for that, for our own enlightenment state, so we can achieve this state very quickly, so we can bring others to the same state. Because the more people achieving enlightenment in the state of no more suffering and no more causes of suffering, and a good, kind, incredible, vast mind, then the world will be free from wars, famine, drugs, even illness, natural disasters, economical problems, disputes, everything. We're dedicating this way that we may continue due to the kindness of our teachers who came before us. We are able to connect with these teachings and practice holy Dharma, not worldly Dharma. And we dedicate, especially for His Holiness' long life and for all the obstacles of his knee situation, his knee problem, to be completely eliminated, and that his trip to America to be without obstacles and very beneficial for his long life. We dedicate for Lama Zopa Rinpoche's swift return, and for the long and healthy lives of all our teachers that continue guiding us and all sentient beings to this enlightened state. So we do some prayers together. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme dew bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtues with the dedication praises the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect pure Losandrapa to shine forever. Now we go to the Shantideva, I think I have no idea, 89, maybe 96. Ah, there you go, 246, yes. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see form and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored and finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the thirst find food, may the hungry find food, may the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy, may the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. And now we do the swift return prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. His Holiness, yes, first, yes, thank you. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chen Rezek Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through the explanation and practice, you are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three Jews and the great ways of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you very, 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 very much. Special thank you to Nana, again, being so kind for being here, so late over there, being so, so devoted and being here to the teachings and to helping the center. Thank you so, so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you. People in Florida, please keep yourself safe and dry. Okay, and I hope, let's see what is happening tomorrow, and then we see. Actually, we also dedicate for that. We dedicate for all the people who maybe lost their cars. They put their I don't know if someone has died, but if anyone and any problems, may all of these people that have died, that have like suffered because of the floodings here in Florida right now, be completely free of suffering and be peaceful and having all of their needs covered. And those that have died, if someone has died, may they immediately achieve a precious human rebirth or a rebirth in a pure land, so they can meet with the Dharma, meet with the holy, perfect Mahayana teacher, and then achieve enlightenment quickly, very, very quickly. Okay, thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Venerable.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. You put to stop recording and then
Yeah, I'm just trying to do that.
up